Goeiedag, good day, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. And I have a few videos attached here, but they're very, very important videos because they give you a much deeper insight into the great global reset being pushed by Klaus Schwab, who runs the World Economic Forum. And I'm going to start off by just playing a clip which is from his wife's YouTube channel, where she talks about how she sees the world going forward and how we're going to fix all the ills of the world. This will just give you a taste of what's coming.
Today, we are lacking social inclusion. We cannot rely on governments alone to provide social infrastructure and safety nets. We must mobilize individuals who, in entrepreneurial and innovative ways, tackle the big problems we are faced with now and in the future.
I'm Maysoon O'Day. I'm a Palestinian entrepreneur. I have co-founded a women radio station based in Ramallah.
I'm Elizabeth Hausler-Strand. I'm the founder and CEO of Build Change.
I'm Tracy Gilmore from The Clothing Bank. I'm the co-founder together with my partner Tracy Chambers.
The Schwab Foundation gives the social entrepreneurs a network to exchange expertise and experiences. It gives them a global presence and visibility.
Build Change. It's a nonprofit social enterprise that works with people in emerging nations to save lives in earthquakes and typhoons by working together to build houses and schools that don't collapse in them.
It's the first commercial radio station for women in the Middle East region. We empower women in media and we highlight the positive role that women play in building their societies in Palestinian and in the Arab world.
Vision Spring is an organization that provides access to affordable vision services and eyeglasses to people throughout the world.
We help unemployed South Africans start businesses. We build relationships with the major retailers and they donate their excess stock to us. And we use that stock as the tool to teach unemployed South Africans how to run businesses.
We really work in every aspect of conservation and making conservation relevant to the people that live and depend on natural environment for their livelihoods.
My organization focuses on technology at the intersection of education and entrepreneurship. We develop technology as well as entrepreneurship programs for youth and women.
Social entrepreneurs show all the other leaders who are part of the forum that social responsibility is more important than just making money.
Having access to the World Economic Forum for any social entrepreneur gives us a greater chance to scale our impact.
Thousands of initiatives on a local level that improve the lives of millions of people.
Okay, now one of the most amazing things about the World Economic Forum is how transparent they are about their motives and where they want to take the world. They make absolutely no excuse for saying that we want one global government, we want one monetary currency, we want control, and everybody who is under us will just be serfs, slaves. It is incredibly transparent what they're talking about. A lot of that stuff is in like double speak. You know, they don't actually say, well, this is how we're going to do it. But when they talk about shareholders losing their shares in companies and that money going to stakeholders, we don't know who the stakeholders are, but they're a totally different set of people. They're probably the people who are going to be controlling the world. These are the sort of things that you need to really start concentrating on, because this COVID-19 crisis, in my eyes, YouTube, this is just my eyes, is a scam. It's just another variation of the flu. That's in my perspective. And what has happened is that this whole thing with the vaccine, with all the other stuff they're talking about, is to put people under duress and make them fearful of something that is no different to anyone in their 20s, 30s have faced for years and years and years in the past with the flu. After all, what happened to the flu in South Africa last winter? wasn't there. It just kind of just disappeared, didn't it? No, it didn't. No. COVID-19, as far as I'm concerned, is just another version of the flu that we've had coming through South Africa and other countries around the world, including Australia. We didn't have the flu either. And all they've done is they've put this media campaign on top of it and said, oh, this is shocking, it's a great pandemic and da-da-da-da-da. This is just a red herring for the global reset, which is going to allow those in power to take over. And I think there's one country in the world that, if they play their cards right, could actually stand together and keep this global reset out of their area. And because of the chaos going on in South Africa, and because the minority populations are starting to work together in South Africa, I think it could be South Africa. Wouldn't that be a great irony? Anyway, guys, here comes the couple of the other clips which I've gone through. I've gone through 2 hours of Klaus Schwab talking, and my God, he is as boring as watching grass grow. But anyway, look, I've put together some of the more important statements he makes with the global reset, so you can understand that they are being totally transparent about how they're going to take away your civil liberties. Please remember to subscribe to be kept informed. Ring the bell for the updates. Please like this video. Please share this video. And above all, please stay safe. Bye for now.
And Klaus, perhaps you can introduce the book, its themes, and tell us what the objectives are for the Great Reset.
Welcome, everybody, and thank you, Adrian. Let's first look at the impact COVID-19 probably has. We don't know yet the final outcome of this pandemic. There's a lot of uncertainty, but we know already that it will have a changing effect, changing on economies, societies. It's not just to be compared with the economic crisis which we had to pass through 10 years ago. The effect will be much similar to World War, and actually all countries in the world are affected. So if we look at the impact, of course, we first see the impact on global economic growth. Even in the most optimistic estimates of the IMF and OECD, we will be back to the output level of the end of 19 only at the, in the best case, only at the end of 21. So look at the debt which we are loading on our shoulders. The world was already indebted at an amount of over 300% of GDP. Now the rescue programs of the governments represent another $10 trillion, which will be added to our debt load and will have to be in some way be repaid by future generations. I'm also, of course, looking at the unemployment, which and the impact on livelihoods. We know many people, according to the ILO, about 50% of people in the world will be affected, combined, taking the combined effects of COVID-19 and the fourth industrial revolution. And finally, not to forget the figures. I mean, we look at the statistics, we see more than 500,000 people who have died. Just imagine the personal tragedy which is behind all those cases. So we have to be very careful not just to look at the figures. Now, when we look at COVID, I think we should distinguish between three phases. We have the three R's: restrain, which means to fight the virus, the hot phase. Most countries are in today. Then we have recover, to go back to a kind of new normal. And finally, the reset, which means to define and to design the strategies which should lead us in the after-Corona phase. What is the objective? What kind of world do we want to build? What do we know? What did we learn? I think the world which we want to create with the Great Reset has to be much more resilient. It has to be because security, people will demand more security. Physical security, health security. It will have to be more inclusive. We had already a big gap before the crisis started. This gap will be tremendously increased. So if we want to avoid some kind of social revolutions, and we have seen the signs of anger on the streets already the last weeks, so we have to address this issue to create a stronger inclusiveness. And finally, more sustainable, because we know now that the next crisis is already waiting for us around the corner, and it is the climate crisis. The World Economic Forum, by the way, has warned the world related to the to possible pandemics since years, and actually 3 of the major organizations now in the fight against the virus, like the Global Fund, particularly also CEPI, all those organizations were created in Davos. So we know that the next crisis may come on us, and we have to be better prepared. So what does it mean in practice? 5 things. 5 priorities. The first one is we have to redefine our social contract to integrate more inclusion. We also have to make sure that we integrate much more in the social contract our responsibility towards the next generation. We cannot just think of the debt, leave all the solutions and to be paid for by the next generation. So the social contract, and in the social contract, we also have to look at one specific issue. So COVID will create again a gap between the so-called industrialized and emerging countries. The emerging countries, at least some of them, suffering much more compared to some of the countries which have a well-established social safety net. Then second, so it's a social contract. Second, it's the decarbonization of the economy to protect us against let's say, an environmental virus. And here we will publish tomorrow, by the way, a report which shows clearly that there is no contradiction between taking care of nature and particularly creating the need to create jobs and to invigorate the economy. Just to give you one figure which has been calculated, if you take an investment of $300 billion or euros, it could create in the nature-based economy something around 400 million additional jobs. So, social contract, green economy, but number 3, and that's a major part also of the book, because, you know, I published 4 years ago the book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution. All those technologies are very much advanced now by COVID. Everything will be digitalized, which can be digitalized. How can we use the technologies to address the challenges, but at the same time, make sure that we create the necessary ethical, human-oriented principles around those technologies. Finally, what is the role of companies in this new post-COVID era? I think we are moving from short-term to long-term, from shareholder capitalism to stakeholder capitalism. The COVID crisis has shown that companies who invest into their vitality instead of prioritizing short-term profits have performed much better. And that's what the stakeholders will expect in the future. And I should add at last the need for much stronger global cooperation. COVID has shown us that we are globally interdependent, and I think it's a wake-up call to work in the future together to address all the consequences and to create a reset in our economic, social, ecological thinking. Thank you.
Klaus, thank you very much. Thierry, you co-wrote this book. We got you on the line.
Hi, hello. Thank you all for this talk. I really enjoyed it. My question to all of you would be, being an urban planner, what do you think our cities would look like, let's say 10 years, 20 years from now? What should be our main focus, knowing the shift in paradigm, thinking about sustainability and resiliency nowadays? My second question, if I may ask, how do you think the response to refugees and refugee issues should be going forward as well?
Thanks for that. We don't have a lot of time left on our call, but I'll call on each of our panelists if I can for a very quick answer to those questions. And Klaus, I mean, cities famously are vertical, and perhaps this pandemic means they'll be more horizontal. What do you think the impact will be on the way we manage urban life going forward?
We don't know yet, but we can assume that there will be a de-urbanization and people will have some kind of a tendency to prefer a rural environment again more to the, let's say, accumulation of people. As far as the refugees are concerned, I think here we are mainly in a situation of restraint. We have to make sure that, particularly, that's one of the big worries, the refugee camps, we do not have too many infections, because with the accumulation of people, this would be really a major human disaster. Let me just, since we are coming at the end, let me just conclude by saying we are at a turning point of humankind. I think we should not underestimate the historical significance of the situation we are in. We know the world will look differently when we move out, hopefully as soon as possible, from the acute phase of the virus into a new situation. Now, we have three options for the new situation. The first one is that all the negative aspects which we have seen during the crisis, and I refer to the egoism which has increased, I would say, on an international, national, but also, let's face it, on an individual level, that these negative tendencies will even increase, will continue, and I don't want to be too much a pessimist, but I would say in this case, I'm very concerned about the life of my grandchildren. The second situation is that people assume we are just going back to the good old world which we had, and everything will be normal again in how we are used to normal, in the old fashion. This is, let's say, fiction. It will not happen. The cut which we have now is much too strong in order not to leave traces. And then we have the third possibility, to construct a new concept based on the learnings, on the observations we have seen, and to create really, and I come back, a more resilient, a more inclusive, and a more sustainable world. So some people may say this is too idealistic, but what other choice do we have? At least we have to try. We may fail, and next generations, or even we ourselves, will have to pay the price for our failure. At least we should try it. And I can just promise you on behalf of the forum, of our partners in governments, business, civil society, and so on behalf of my colleagues, and we will try to be on the constructive side. It will be an interesting journey, a journey which probably will last for quite some time. The annual meeting will be a major factor in it. So I'm looking forward to continue this discussion with you, and hopefully to continue the discussion by showing that we make maybe only small, but at least we make progress.
Klaus, thank you.